The topic of my final senior project is Does a lack of mental health professionals negatively impact youth seeking treatment? To start off, let's take a look at the causes and history of this human injustice and issues that have already stemmed from this lack of professionals. Right now, CHI Psychiatric Associates Office at Lakeside is about 1 month out for therapy appointments. Even worse, they are about 2 to 4 months out for psychiatric appointments. According to an article by Alexia Elahade Ruiz, the nation struggles with a continuing shortage of psychologists and psychiatrists. These shortages are worse in rural and poor urban areas that probably aren't the first choice for work, but the shortage does too continue to spread into heavily populated cities. An obstacle that may keep some from pursuing this career path could be the low insurance reimbursement rates for psychiatrists, according to the Chicago Tribune. Another factor potentially driving possible mental health professionals away could be that the job is mentally draining and doesn't come with the best pay. The good news is that a number of students pursuing psychiatry is growing, but unfortunately is still not enough. Because of this shortage, those of us who recognize it move along with hope that these positions will be filled. For in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, we hear, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." This scripture passage gives us faith that those who have in fact been called according to God's purpose will hear his calling and follow it to fill these vital roles. A foundation that has members who have heard that call from God is the Kim Foundation. This foundation was formed after Larry Courtnidge's daughter, Kim, took her life. The foundation's mission statement is to raise awareness through education, outreach, and advocacy in order to serve lives touched by mental illness and suicide. The Kim Foundation lives out their mission in their daily actions while also reflecting the fourth principle in the Catholic social teaching, option for the poor and vulnerable. People affected by mental illness are often vulnerable to situations, people, places, and scenarios around them. They're blinded by what constantly clouds their mind, whatever they may be struggling with. As children of God, we are called to put the needs of the poor and vulnerable first. That being said, we must do what we can to make certain their needs are too taken care of. As I continue to remind you of how lucky we are to have these awesome organizations, I want to shine light on one more, and that is the American Association of Suicidology. This association has a mission statement to promote the understanding and prevention of suicide and support those who have been affected by it. And by living out their mission statement, this organization effectively lives out the seventh principle in the Catholic social teaching, care for God's creation. As human beings, we show our respect to God by also respecting all that He has created. That includes ourselves. As followers of Jesus Christ, we are all called to protect God's people and the planet as well. Sure, as human beings, it's our nature to care for all that God has created, but what about those whose job it actually is? A pastoral letter about work and justice states, 1928 society ensures social justice when it provides the conditions that allow associations or individuals to obtain what is their due, according to their nature and their vocation. That being said, those who have been affected have a right to obtain what is their due and have a rightful access to mental health professionals. Hearing about different organizations who work to solve this problem is great and uplifting, but what feels even better is taking a step to make a change yourself. Therefore, I took it into my own hands to write a letter to our U.S. Senator Deb Fischer. In my letter, I requested that she bring mental health to the attention of our community and society as a whole. I also asked that we collaborate on ways to advocate for and educate others on this topic. Specifically, I noted I want to get the word out about filling jobs and that need to be filled in the mental health field. I expressed to her that I felt if this decision were to be made, not only could we fill jobs in mental health clinics, but with more professionals available, more people can be helped, and clients wouldn't have to wait weeks or months to see somebody. I felt Deb Fischer was the perfect public official to reach out to, given that she has already previously supported mental health in her weekly column on September 30th, 2019, where she stated, "To any Nebraskan who is struggling with a mental illness, please know you are never alone. You are not a burden to anyone, and professionals are waiting to give you the assistance you need." I mentioned that I agreed, but how many professionals are really waiting, and that we do need more? People are weird. Sometimes they won't believe anything until they've got proof. Well, in that case, it is absolutely true that a lot of those people struggling with mental illness will try to self-medicate in one way or another if they don't get the help that they need. According to Gary Fields with the Wall Street Journal Online, Regina Collision went about her everyday life and had people thinking she had mood swings and anger issues. Little did anyone know, she struggled with depression and anxiety. Because few psychiatrists took private insurance and her search for help just past 2 years, she gave up and resorted to marijuana. Her mother actually admitted this helped push away the demons, or at least it seemed. At 26 years old, Regina shot herself due to the constant play of those underlying demons, who scientifically go unnoticed by those who aren't professionals. Psychologically, there is a way to bring the calm and peacefulness out of these struggling individuals. Elizabeth Minnie is a psychologist at a high school in Austin, Texas, and said that she carefully arranged her room to evoke a calm sensation. She covered the walls in pretty tapestries and faded lights. According to David Leffler with the Washington Post, one of her clients stated, For years, I just wanted to die. I didn't want to exist. But within a few months of beginning therapy, it was the complete opposite. I began feeling like I mattered, that my life mattered. It opened up a world of possibilities for me. Now, what has already been done in the history of mental health care professionals to get us where we are today, to eventually get us where we want to be? Well, according to Melinda Beck with the Wall Street Journal in 2013, Anna Ratzliff, a psychiatrist in Seattle, at the time oversaw mental health care for nearly 500 patients. Strangely, most of those patients she has never or will never meet. 7 years ago, Dr. Ratzliff was working with so many more patients than she would be able to if she was strictly face-to-face appointments only. I am aware that current therapists and counselors will send out electronic follow-up recommendations of coping skills that the patient can use, and that is great. But if more professionals pick up Anna Ratzliff's practice, I believe we will have much more success in overcoming this injustice. Sure, we are aware of the facts and statistics, but what about personal experience? Do you ever wonder what people who struggle with this injustice think and feel? Fortunately, I got to speak with someone who was directly impacted by this issue. Caitlin Piper, a junior at Millard West, opened up to me about her mental health journey. Caitlin told me about her journey and how she went from not wanting to be here anymore to being one of the most smiley girls I've ever met. She had constant sadness and was isolating herself from her friends, which downward spiraled into cutting herself after a year and a half of struggling. Once she finally told a friend, her friend told her parents, and they immediately wanted to find her help. Although they rushed to take action, they weren't able to get an appointment for at least 4 weeks. Once she did finally get an appointment, she began going to sessions and went on 3 different medications before they found the right one for her. That was January of 2018. It is now May of 2020, and Caitlin is doing so much better. At first, she was ashamed of telling anybody or letting anybody know she was on medication or seeing a therapist. She decided she wanted to fight her battle, and that she did. That being said, if the number of mental health professionals does increase, we also must do a better job of promoting those resources and ending the stigma that mental health is something we should be ashamed of, because it definitely is not. After getting to hear the client side of the conversation, I also wanted to get the therapist side of things. I decided to interview Teresa M. Schumacher, a therapist at the CHI Lakeside office. I firmly believe this is an injustice, but I wanted to hear her opinion on things. After speaking with an expert on the topic, she said as much as she says as much as she wants to see new patients, it's just impossible with the month-long delays for just 45 minutes or an hour to talk. Ms. Schumacher says she believes the school system is in fact getting better by having small groups for kids that seem to be struggling in areas. This alerts the school counselors to talk to their parents and address their concerns. In middle and high schools with teenagers, they are starting to give out a depression screener where it asks the teen questions about their feelings. If these indicate concerning answers, they call the parents and encourage them to get their child into counseling. This has been very helpful and has gotten kids into her office that really needed to be there. She feels many people may not enter this field in fear that it may be draining emotionally and the pay not be great, but she avoids this by working out, reading, and enjoying family time. Fortunately, Dr. Schumacher loves the field she's in and always knew she was good at talking to people and helping others brainstorm. Hopefully, those new professionals who enter the field feel the same exact way. We all must work in collaboration to participate in God's creation. That being said, we look to the Catechism of the Catholic Church where it states, "Labor is how we provide for the livelihood of individuals and families. Labor is how we exercise stewardship and participate in God's creation in order to build up the common good of our commonwealth." When we hear this, we as children of God are reminded of what we must do for the good of others and the Catholic community. Just like Elizabeth Minnie's client at the high school in Austin, Texas, I can also confidently agree with her client and honestly say I did want to die. Although I didn't get the help I needed right away, we didn't find the solutions after looking only one time. But after a few months after practicing what did work for me, I too found a purpose and my life did a complete 180. The moment I proposed this topic, I knew it would be one I was so ready to do and passionate about. I was ready to give it my 110%. As individual people struggling with a mental illness or not, it is clear to see that mental health professionals in our area, and frankly all over the United States, are lacking. As someone who has been directly impacted by this injustice, I hope the rest of your eyes have been opened as well, and I hope you too can now see the injustice that is the lack of mental health professionals. And I kindly ask that you help stand up and advocate for those who are voiceless in this battle with mental health.